When I was a kid, I couldn't wait to grow up. I thought that one day, when I was finally old enough, I would leave this place behind. Back then, I was just a foolish little kid. Everything about this place made me feel small. The old house, the simple things we had, the way my family lived. I was embarrassed by all of it. But the truth is, our family didn't always live in a brick house. When my sister and I were still in elementary school, we lived in a tiny wooden house in the mountains of rural Vietnam. There was no electricity, no paved roads, just red dirt roads, farmland, and small houses scattered across the countryside. My parents worked in the fields, and whenever they had some free time, they would go into town and work construction jobs. They worked hard, really hard, not because they wanted a better life for themselves, but because they wanted their 2 daughters to go to school. And when storms like this came, we were terrified. Sometimes the rain would come straight through the roof and drip onto our beds. My father would take an old piece of tarp and try to cover the leaks. My mother would put out whatever buckets and basins she could find, and my sister and I would huddle together in the corner of the kitchen. We were just kids. All we could think about was whether the wind would become strong enough to blow the whole house down. But my parents never gave up. Little by little, they saved enough money to build us a small brick house. By the time my sister and I were in middle school, the little wooden house was gone and we had a new home. I still remember how happy we were. For the first time when it rained, we could sleep peacefully. No water dripping onto our beds, no buckets underneath the roof, no fear that the wind might blow the house apart. It was such a simple thing, but to us, it felt like a miracle. By the time I was in high school, my sister and I had to leave home and move to town for school, and that was when I began to see how differently other people lived. One day, a girl from my class invited me to her house. It was the first time I really noticed the difference. Her family had a sofa, a gas stove, a refrigerator, things that seemed so ordinary to her but felt almost unfamiliar to me. I remember feeling overwhelmed, and quietly I felt ashamed. I started thinking, I need to grow up quickly. I need to get a job. I need to make money. I need to give my parents a better life. Because I was so embarrassed about where I came from, there were times when I refused to let my friends come to my house. They never said anything bad about it. They never made fun of me. The shame was entirely inside me. I was the one who couldn't accept where I came from. But as I grew older, I slowly began to understand something. You can never hide your past, and you don't need to, because your past is a part of who you are today. Everything my parents went through, every difficult day, every drop of sweat became part of the reason we kept moving forward. Eventually, we built another house, a better house, a house with more space, more comfort, and everything my younger self once dreamed of. But my parents still chose to stay in the little old house. They had spent most of their lives there. They were used to it. And more than anything, that house was full of memories. It is strange how life changes. When we were children, my sister and I couldn't wait to leave that house. But now, we find ourselves wanting to come back. Not because the house is beautiful, not because it is comfortable, but because so much of our childhood is still living inside those walls. The little house remembers us. It remembers the two little girls hiding from the storms. It remembers my father trying to cover the leaking roof. It remembers my mother placing basins on the floor. It remembers everything we once wanted to forget. And today, in a gentle little rain, I came home again. I stood there and suddenly realized how much I love this little old house. Maybe I didn't hate this place when I was a child. Maybe. I was simply too young to understand what it meant to me. Because some places don't become precious because they are beautiful. They become precious because the people we love once lived there. And as long as my parents are still here, this little house will always be home. Maybe when I was young, I thought I was trying to leave this house behind. But now I understand. I was never really trying to leave home. I was only trying to find my way back to it.